Okay. Hi, everyone. Can you hear me okay? I'm Laurie Schneider from Pollinator Friendly Alliance. Myself, along with Dan Shaw from the Minnesota Board of Water and Soil Resources, and Bree Bauerly from Minnesota Native Landscapes, are presenting on habitat restoration collaborations. The three of us offer different perspectives to expand habitat and on different scales. So I am offering the perspective of a non-government agency or an NGO, nonprofit grassroots organization. PFA is not exactly a small local group, but we're not a large national organization either. We're sort of tucked in between those two positions, which sets us up nicely for lots of partners and opportunities in communities. It's important to encourage different types of customers and partners. The more people are engaged, the more opportunities there will be to accomplish these projects. The more hands, the more boots on the ground. With the earth warming up, I feel spring coming on. I hope you do too. It's been a long winter. Like our friends, the fungi, waiting for the perfect opportunity and partnerships to make things happen. There are two key elements for a successful collaboration, and that is opportunities and partnerships. And we like to capitalize on both of those for collaborative projects that we work on. When opportunities present themselves, the project can be a lot more successful rather than trying to overcome obstacles. For example, we had the opportunity to convert 5 underutilized lots of turf in Stillwater. These are before and after pictures. So this is an upper Prairie and part of that 5 lots, and this is after. The water board in the city of Stillwater was comprised of an environmentally minded group at the time who was happy to partner with us to convert this turf to habitat along a popular residential bike and walking trail. So this is the lower trail before, and this is after. The community was very excited about the idea of hosting Minnesota's first pollinator park in their city. So this project really attracted the support of many businesses, community leaders, garden groups, volunteers. And there's the after the flower garden. So that's another important key component is partnerships. Our strategy is to identify one person or a like-minded partner who works with a group, a business or agency who can be our ambassador of sorts to pull the rest of their organization along with them. So partners can be an environmentalist that sits on a committee or a board, part of a community group, business owners, community leaders, even grocery stores, banks, coffee shops, outdoor stores, on and on. There are a lot of partners to be had. This next project I'd like to share with you is at Pine Point Park in Washington County. The county had already started working on converting this old corn crop into prairie. And we had already been working with the county for them to pass a pollinator protection resolution. So there was opportunity. That was our door in. We engaged a lot of partners on this project, including Minnesota Native Landscapes, Patagonia, Lush Cosmetics, Sencha Tea Bar, the Girl Scouts, the high school, Wild Ones, Anderson Corporation, the Conservation District, and more. So sort of the more popular or high profile the area is, the more partners it seems it attracts. One of our biggest challenges in restoration work is changing perceptions and what is valued or beautiful, a green lawn or native prairie. Well, I like the native prairie. But we found a main ingredient to change perceptions is through action, engaging volunteers and partners and neighbors in the actual work, the boots on the ground, the sharing of knowledge and understanding that comes through that work all helps people become invested in this work in restoration and conservation. Also important is for people to make it personal, have an emotional attachment to make it meaningful in their lives. This is really the key to a successful project, I feel. Inviting people to be part of the process from the beginning and also allowing them to be a part of the rewards or the completion of the work afterwards. See the beautiful pollinators visiting all their plants that they planted. We know that not everyone is going to make pollinator conservation, habitat restoration, or reducing pesticides a priority. But we can do our best work to demonstrate. We can come together as a collaboration to show what can get done when people are committed and care. So I invite you all to invite them in. And that's the end of my little talk. So who is up next? Is that you, Dan?
I think so.
All right. Do you want to share your screen?
All right. It's good to be with everybody today. So I'll be talking about larger scale partnership efforts across Minnesota. I work for the Minnesota Board of Water and Soil Resources. We're a state agency, essentially the state's conservation agency. And working in partnerships is a key part of the work that we do. And really the collaboration and partnerships can be very diverse for projects. We really rely on a lot of different partners for our work to be successful. It starts with partners working on policy, partners who are working on providing funding, research, outreach and education, implementing projects, long-term management, even though landowners are key partners. So really it's a diverse group that gets involved with these projects and the statewide efforts. There's a Minnesota State Pollinator Report, which helps with collaboration. It helps coordinate work between agencies in the state. There's a new report that is recently out. Our agency also has a pollinator report that we use to determine what actions we want to take as an agency related to pollinators. We have some other key resources. We have a pollinator toolbox that's intended to assist local governments working on pollinator projects. There was some discussion earlier about our What's Working for Conservation website. That resource is really focused on having information come from practitioners going to practitioners. So it's a peer-to-peer resource, and we're always looking for new information to add to that site. We've been really working on adding pollinator information to the site. And there is some mention of our featured plants. We have featured plant articles that go out every month, so that's something that anybody can sign up for. Really, with our work, I see us trying to really ramp up habitat for pollinators, and that involves bringing habitat into as many kinds of landscapes as we can, whether it's rural landscapes or urban landscapes, conservation lands, natural areas. We're just looking for opportunities of where we can incorporate pollinator habitat and habitat for other beneficial insects. This is a list of some of the programs that we work on. We're currently working on a conservation reserve enhancement program as part of our easement efforts. We have around 300,000 acres of easements around the state. We're working on incorporating pollinator habitat into our wetland programs, our cost share programs. We have a habitat-friendly solar program, our relatively new lawns to legumes pilot program, and then different resources. We're working on an update of state seed mixes, which I'll talk a little bit more about. And we're interested in expanding pollinator mapping within the state. So starting with some of the larger scale restoration efforts, many of the bigger projects that we're working on around the state are informed by the Minnesota Prairie Conservation Plan. And that was a plan that many partners had worked on to prioritize areas within Minnesota to focus on to preserve really important habitat across Western Minnesota. That graphic on the left shows different agencies that are working on different properties. And so there's Fish and Wildlife Service, NRCS, DNR, Bowser. We're all working on these properties trying to restore important habitat and really make important connections within landscapes. So creating corridors is a big focus of much of this work. Our Minnesota Habitat Friendly Solar Program, it's another one that really has taken a large number of public and private partners. There's around 1,000 acres of solar projects being installed within the state each year. And really habitat focused solar has become the norm within the state. And that's been great to see that we think over 90% of these projects are using native habitat. So that's a real improvement over turf or gravel, which has been used in many areas for these types of projects. And so we have a program where we have a standard where solar developers can work to meet the standard to be considered habitat friendly with their projects. Our Lawns and Legumes program received a lot of attention really across the country. We're getting messages, questions from people all around the country about this program. So it's been great to see, and it's been a great way to really increase awareness around pollinators. This project was funded by the LCCMR and the Environment and Natural Resources Trust Fund, and it's focused on establishing residential pollinator habitat across the state with a focus on habitat for the rusty patch bumblebee. As far as we know, this is the first effort within the country to really try to have a statewide effort to promote residential pollinator habitat, which is a bit of a challenge trying to work statewide and accomplish our goals. But that's where the partners really come in to help this kind of program be successful. This program has 3 components. It has a public education and outreach campaign. So we worked with a large number of partners on outreach for this program. There were around 128 articles that were written for the program. So really reporters and news outlets become a partner in a sense as well. Individual landowners or residents around the state could apply for $350 of cost share funding, and there were workshops and other resources for them. And we felt it was really important to have any resident in the state be eligible to apply for this funding. And then we also had demonstration neighborhoods, which are part of the program to focus on key habitat corridors around the state. We have 12 of these demonstration neighborhood projects that have been started within Minnesota. So it's been off to a great start. There's some artwork shown here from a student from the Minneapolis College of Art and Design. They were one of our partners working on the outreach part of this program. So many of the partners are listed here. Really, again, it really takes all of these great groups who are working on pollinator habitat to make this kind of program successful, to be able to accomplish goals at a really large scale. One other effort I mentioned was our state seed mixes. We have around 70 state seed mixes that we've been adjusting over time, but we haven't done a large update on many of them for about 10 years. And we know there's many improvements that can be made for pollinator habitat. So that's one of the big efforts that we're working on with the update of these mixes. These mixes are used over thousands of acres each year with conservation projects, could be even utility projects. It's used by a wide range of partners out there. We're updating substitution tables, trying to find ways to make these mixes be adapted for site conditions, and then creating some other resources around them. So if anybody that's on the session today is interested in being a stakeholder with this group. We're interested in having more stakeholders involved, and feel free to contact me. Several years ago, we started doing pollinator mapping in Washington County as one of the first pilots in the country to really think about how do you map for pollinators. We're looking at expanding that work for other counties. There was some work that was also done in Minneapolis. The student worker, the intern that was working with me, worked with Metro Blooms and Blue Thumb to do mapping in Minneapolis. So we'd like to think about this more, kind of reconvene, think about how do we want to approach this. So this is another really big partner effort, and we're looking for additional stakeholders if there's others who are interested in collaborating on pollinator mapping across the state. So that was the last slide I had, so I'll turn it over to Bree.
Okay, let's see if I. Okay. I am Bree Bauerly. I work for Minnesota Native Landscapes. We are a private contractor. We do really wide scale range of services, as well as native seed production and greenhouse growing. So we kind of operate under three main groups. Would be our construction division. We're doing like prairie installation or seeding projects, anything from large scale riverbank reconstruction work and down from there to backyard native seeding and planting or rain garden projects. And then our vegetation maintenance division, that kind of would include all of our different services, from our traditional land management of like native backyard prairies to goat grazing and in woodland ecosystems, and we have a large number of sheep that we put out for prairie management, as well as a pretty large scale prescribed burning outfit with red rock fire. So those are our main service divisions, and again, just really wide scale operations for kind of all of our unique ecosystems here in Minnesota. And then we have several different growing locations for our native seed production. We're right now growing probably close to 500 acres and about 250 unique species between native seed and native plant production. So that's seed production in Foley, that's just east of St. Cloud, Minnesota, and down in Lonsdale near Northfield, and a couple other locations. And then, like I mentioned, we do greenhouse growing as well. So there we grow a good variety of native plugs, and we do some 4-inch pots. And primarily we grow our native plants in plugs for our own projects or for use in other projects, or some for sale. So we don't have a retail store location or anything like that, but we do sell seed mixes to the general public or to project partners, either, kind of by creating custom mixes or working off of state design seed mixes, or conservation mixes put out by the county level. So we kind of do just a wide variety of different opportunities there with our production. But we're really lucky to be able to collaborate on such a wide variety of projects with a really unique group of partners across the state, or really across the Midwest. We get to work with nonprofit groups like Pollinator Friendly Alliance, city and county offices, other habitat organizations, schools, the general public, energy providers, lake associations, private businesses, and so many more. The way that we receive projects that we work on, it varies greatly from one project to another. Sometimes we join a project from square one. A homeowner gives us a call and says they want to put a prairie in their backyard, and they want help designing it. They want help, deciding where it should go. And we love, we love to do that and give our own technical guidance and use our in-house seed mixes. And sometimes we join a project as a partner, providing, just the boots on the ground type work, or maybe just the products portion, maybe just supplying a seed mix or just doing a seeding at the end of a construction project. It's really great that there's so many opportunities for joining projects, in all aspects, whether it's just one small portion, like providing a bag of seed, or if it's being able to be involved, from start to finish, regardless. It's just a really great, unique opportunity that I think here in Minnesota and the Midwest, we're really lucky to have kind of a wide variety of opportunities to increase habitat. So like I said, we can get involved in projects in so many different ways as a private contractor, and we're able to work with all of these different groups, and sometimes, multiple groups. Sometimes we're working with a funding partner as well as somebody providing technical assistance or overseeing the project. And then we're also using guidance, put out by groups like pollinator researchers and organizations. Heather and Sarah spoke this morning about the pollinator powerhouses, and we're able to use that information to influence our growing and our seed mix contents and what we're growing in the greenhouse. We can ramp up our production of high quality pollinator forage plants, host plants, as well as habitat plants based on what the current research is showing. Of course, we need a little bit of lead time to start production on new species. So it's really exciting to see where the research is going and how we can get involved and really help provide high quality habitat. And then the ways that we're able to get out in the community and share our native seed and plants, it's not the easiest. You can't go into any store as a consumer and expect to find high quality native plants and seeds. So we are trying our best to get our plants and seed out to the general public and to spread the word, about the differences between native plants and cultivars and some of the benefits of native plants for native pollinators and things like that. Like the plant kits at the bottom of my slide here. Those kits are sold in Fleet Farm greenhouses, across select stores in Minnesota and Wisconsin. And that's just a really great opportunity to get our products in the hands of, somebody who just would go to a pop-up greenhouse expecting, to buy just traditional plants and have the opportunity to take home some local origin native plants. And then the picture of the seed packet that I put up here, that's just a songbird seed mix that we developed a few years ago based on recommendations from the Audubon Society's Native Plant Finder, and using that tool to select plant resources that are beneficial to songbirds in Minnesota based on whether it's for seed consumption, like winter availability of seeds, or for attracting certain insects that then songbirds choose to feed on. And so, using what might work in somebody's backyard to encourage, birders to get involved in use of native plants for beneficial habitat. It's really exciting to just kind of come up with some new ideas and get them out there to the general public. Just some examples of some projects that I wanted to share about collaboration and working together to, complete unique types of projects. I have a little screenshot here of a Minnesota Board of Water and Soil Resources project that we were able to be a part of actually last winter. And it's just, the project was great, and it had a lot of partners, including Bowser and Three Rivers Park District and Hennepin County, and they all came together. This Baker Ravine Park River stabilization project where a degraded stream bank was repaired and seeded with a diverse native seed mix. But, you know, more than just the project being completed itself is talking about it and spreading the word about, you know, these different types of projects being completed. And I think that's, you know, a really great resource that's out there. You know, when we can come together and spread the word, we can really be successful, making a big impact. The other project here that I highlighted was this native rain garden in St. Cloud. And I love this project because of the way that we involved youth in the community. So going to this junior high and having the students, you know, do some research on which plants might thrive in rain gardens, and then putting together that plant list and submitting it to Minnesota Native Landscapes as an idea of what types of plants they might like to include in this 9,000 square foot rain garden, and then including all of these other partners like the Sauk River Watershed District and St. Cloud Wild Ones as funding partners and some technical assistance, and working with the school to then gain permission to use this water basin. It was kind of just a totally unused area so the students, you know, we worked together and went to the school board and with our idea, and we had to convince them that it would look nice. And then the students grew milkweed in their milk cartons, and, you know, just fun things like that to engage our youth and to teach them the benefits of native plants and pollinators, you know, here in Minnesota. So it's just, you know, another way that we can all work together to spread the word. And right now we're working on a collaboration with the Nicollet County 4-H, doing some youth outreach with pocket prairie plantings, and you know, that's in kind of like rural communities, and it's just really exciting to have these different different partners and different ways that we can engage the general public, especially including the youth and students, you know, creating these outdoor classrooms or gardens outside of schools and libraries, and then convincing the property owners that we're not going to be inviting stinging insects in, and it's always a learning curve, but it's a lot of fun. This project is at the Care 11 studio here in Minnesota in Golden Valley, and we're really lucky to have a native plant and pollinator advocate in Laura Becker with Care 11. Laura realized that there's all this unused turf space outside of the studio that was providing really no benefit, but she would see, you know, sprinklers going off, you know, during rain events, and crews out doing traditional, you know, mowing and fertilizing and things, and realize the impact that they could, you know, have, and the benefits they could create by installing a native prairie ecosystem on the studio property. And so we installed a really diverse native pollinator seed mix on about a 1/4 acre of property. We even put native thistles in the mix. You can maybe see in the picture. You know, so this is going to be used as an educational tool, and has been featured on, you know, several news pieces already, and its benefit to the general public, you know, just spreading the word about, you know, what these habitats can look like and how they can be created on, you know, any scale, small to large. It's just really exciting, and it came, you know, with some challenges, again, of convincing the studio that it would look nice, but you know, we're all used to seeing a lot of unused turf grass on corporate campuses. So that's one of our missions at MNL, is to work with corporate campuses and different types of private landowners to make these conversions over time. And so far, so good. It's kind of slow going, but one of these days we'll get around to convincing more and more private landowners to make these conversions. But I think that these collaborations that Laurie and Dan that we've been talking about here, and the way that all of these different groups can come together and share our knowledge. You know, we have a lot of pollinator advocates and native plant advocates here in Minnesota, and we can all work together to kind of spread the word about how these native plant ecosystems and native pollinators, how they kind of work together to each other's benefit. So we're also able to work together to create seed and plant products that will be as beneficial as possible based on current research, as I mentioned a little bit before. But we can use research by the Xerces Society on which plants are beneficial to pollinators and include those in a seed mix. Something with a high diversity like a pollinator seed mix that has over 28 flowering species with a lot of blooms during the different parts of the growing season, or take the guidelines recently published for the rusty patch bumblebee beneficial habitat and put those right into native seed mixes that somebody could buy and put in on a small scale, anywhere like 500 square feet of your backyard space, and put in plants that have been proven to be beneficial to the rusty patch bumblebee or any pollinators, or like I mentioned before, songbirds. We can work together to create these comprehensive seed mixes or plant kits. I think it's maybe hidden a little bit by our pictures here, but on the right side of my screen is our My Pocket Prairie plant kit, which was really designed by our greenhouse manager. And he had this idea that any person can and should put some native plantings in their yard, and it doesn't have to be large scale. So our main My Pocket Prairie kit actually is just a 5x5 area. And we put this whole kit together with locally sourced products that we tried out and liked the way they looked and liked the way they acted together, and put this garden kit together that somebody can just buy online and have everything they need to start a pollinator garden. So we're taking a lot of the guesswork out of where to start and how to and just putting plants in people's hands in order to get this pollinator habitat established. So trying really hard through a lot of different avenues to connect people with plants and people with pollinators in their own yard. And as we go along, and we're constantly creating new partnerships, new relationships, new I think just tools and toolboxes for coming together to get the work done across the state. And I think it's really exciting in the direction we're heading, and hopefully we just can continue to pick up steam and keep doing such great work.
Collaborations, you. So we've got a couple of questions here in the queue. Dan, I've got one to pose to you, and then one for you, Bree. So actually two for you, Dan. Are you aware of any similar programs in other states, specifically Wisconsin? And the second one is, how large are the demonstration areas?
We're aware of some smaller efforts within other states. Ohio has a similar program within Cleveland. And that seems to be the more common scale for these types of efforts. We don't know of a project that's statewide currently, like the one that we're running. I have talked to several people within Wisconsin because there seems to be a lot of interest in this kind of a program. I think probably the biggest challenge is finding funding. And that really helped with this program significantly, to have some funding that could be provided to residents. We spent a lot of time developing technical resources and a great habitat guide that the Xerces Society assisted with. But funding goes a long ways for building excitement. So I think that's really important. The funding source that was used within Minnesota was the lottery funds, essentially, and that go through the LCCMR. So that really helped with this program, but we're not aware of too many other programs around the country. We have heard from a lot of different states who are interested. We talked to people in Quebec. We heard from people in Australia recently who are interested in doing something similar. So it's really getting a lot of attention with all of the articles that have been happening. What was the second part of the question, Laurie?
Demonstration areas. Can you describe what that is? How big they are?
The demonstration areas, we really left it up to the applicants. That part of the program was developed through a request for proposal, and cities, counties, tribes, watershed districts, conservation districts, and nonprofits could all apply to run these demonstration neighborhoods and be the ones that coordinate them and work individually with landowners. We had a real focus on creating these within key habitat corridors within the state. So that was a real focus and one of the ranking criteria for these projects. The size of them vary significantly. And the bundles really vary a lot as well. We have some that are in very urban areas like North Minneapolis,